Welcome to the podcast. We talk about all the things that are hidden in the shadows. This is Isaac, and on this bonus episode, we are doing the paranormal roundtables one more time, or again. Probably never going to stop this as long as we can. I am joined by Mike from Shadow Walker Paranormal, my paranormal team, so we already know each other pretty well. Josh from Cold Spot. Sorry, from Cold Spot Paranormal
Research.
There we go.
Yep.
We got the Keeper of the Second from Paranormal Files, and Peeta from Ethereal Sisters Paranormal. How's everybody doing? Ethereal. I'm never going to say it right.
I know. No one ever does.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Doing great. Tired.
Yeah. I know. I got to work myself doing killing bugs. So, but
it sounds creepy.
we okay. Anyway, the reason why we started, or me and Megan wanted to start these paranormal roundtables, we're discussing from different people around in the mental paranormal community, is for that, to spread our knowledge and what other people have with the paranormal community altogether. Different perspectives from psychics to not people who are psychic, when it comes to paranormal investigating altogether, when dealing with spirits, from good to bad, and how we deal with that. So that's kind of why we started this whole paranormal roundtable thing anyway, is to get different perspectives and discuss our point of views, or at least how we've dealt with things in the paranormal. But like I said before, this is less of an interview, is more of a conversation. First question, I know if anyone's ever watched the previous ones or listened to them, people recognize Peeta, people recognize Mike from the other paranormal roundtables we've done before. But new to this is Josh, and I should call you Keeps for short. In the paranormal roundtable thing. So don't feel like you're odd man's out, because of course us, Peeta and Mike, already know each other from previous times we worked together. But I want everyone to talk about this, because it might be somebody's first time listening to this or watching this. So let's go around and give a small, I guess, description about who you are and your team that you represent.
Do you want me to go first?
I guess so. You're done.
So what got me into paranormal, do you mean?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, had a very negative experience when I was 15. So I think throughout my life, I just, always kind of wondered, like, what was it? Where'd it come from? Why was I the only one affected? Things like that. So once I kind of retired from doing my veterinary work, I, thought, hey, I might get into this. So I conned my best friend, Sean, who unfortunately isn't investigating anymore. But I conned her into starting it with me, and we spent many hours trying to figure out names and came up with Ethereal Sisters Paranormal. And yeah, been doing it ever since, and I love it.
Awesome. I guess I'll go around. Keeps.
Yeah.
What got you into paranormal, at least to earn the title Keeper of the Second?
Oh, do we lose it?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, okay. There we go. Yeah, I lost you for a second. But the name Keeper of the Second, at a time I was going through some rough paths in my life, and my good friend, she brought me into the whole urban community, the whole urbex community of exploring abandoned buildings and stuff. She brought me into it. She gave me the name because she saw that I enjoyed every second, every moment. Like everything was just to my enjoyment of the time exploring. A few years later down the line, she gave me a list of what she wanted to explore. And sadly, she passed away that following year. And I'm still continue doing it. 7 years later, I'm still still exploring, still doing all that fun stuff. Throughout the past 7 years, 4 years ago, I met my good friend Colin Brown, the host, the owner of the Paranormal Files. He's been doing this, I do believe, 2015. He has the name the Paranormal Files. He's been doing the paranormal longer than I have. But once our paths met,
Lost him for a second.
Frozen.
Hope he comes back.
Isn't that the worst? Like when we freeze, we're always in the most like shocking
There he is.
pose. He's back.
There he is.
wait, what happened? I was talking to someone time.
You froze.
I think I lost you when you were talking about when you guys met up in your about paranormal files.
Okay. At that point where he, I guess where we met, I guess it just lit that fire, that whole paranormal. Like I've had somewhat unexplained experiences before meeting him, but once I met him, he and I have been working for the past 4 years together. When he used to live here in Texas, exploring, doing the whole paranormal exploration and all that kind of fun stuff. But yeah.
Awesome. Josh.
Yeah. So I have probably the strangest intro into the paranormal. I grew up Catholic, and I remember when I was 6 years old sitting in first communion class, right? And our teacher's like, hey, you know what? There are evil spirits in this world. You can't see them, but animals can. And if you ever see one, you're going to die. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
So I grew up terrified of ghosts and spirits and all of this stuff. And then my lovely wife convinced me to go on our first paranormal investigation about 5 years ago. Yeah, five and a half years ago. And we did our first paranormal investigation. And it was like, you know what? This was awesome. It wasn't as bad as the mind makes it out to be. And so we ended up starting our team, and we've kind of been hitting the ground running ever since.
And why Cold Spot Paranormal? Was just something you thought of, or just a meaning behind it?
So we actually started out, my wife and I, when we were trying to figure out a name, we used some of those random like paranormal name generators. And we're like, hey, Cold Spot sounds pretty cool. And then we kind of came up with Cold Spot on the Heart. We figured, the Cold Spot, and then, we love the paranormal. So we came up with Cold Spot of the Heart. But a couple of years ago, we ended up bringing on new members and kind of forming a podcast and this whole new team aspect of it. So it was just her and I before. And so we came up with the name Cold Spot Paranormal Research. But if you look at in the initials, it's DPR for short. So it still kind of sticks with the heart aspect of things. And we just kind of grew with our name and, been running with it.
I thought it was like, you walk up, you feel the cold spot.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. I mean, and that definitely does play in the paranormal, right? And so we just got to use it with our names.
Oh.
Well-
I actually really like that name. That's a cool name for a team.
Yep.
That's yeah, I actually forgot because I do have like migraine meds on board, so I'm a bit like space cadetty. But yeah, I've got Jen. She's my paranormal partner in crime. And then I've got Adam, who's a skeptical believer. So that kind of brings a really good dynamic to our team. And we've just had a couple of young people join. So yeah, now there's 5 of us. Lots of training ahead.
And a man I know all too well, Mike.
A brief history, I had a hard life, always in foster care and stuff like that. Had all kinds of experiences with all kinds of religions that are at a young age. But, you know, I was always the one to question, you know, you were talking about Catholics and stuff like that. We fought all the time because, you know, it all contradicts itself. And at a certain point, you realize that religion is a man's construct, you know, spirituality, something different. But what happened is I had passed away from stomach cancer, went septic, passed away. And when I came back out of the hospital, I thought I was going crazy because I was hearing and seeing and things were moving in my peripheral. And, you know, it was like a whirlwind from there. Joined a paranormal team that didn't work out. They just had a different way of doing things. And then met Isaac through them and then started hanging out with Isaac and we started Shadow Walker Paranormal. So, and I'm not crazy, by the way. You know, I know what's on the other side now. So, but it's been an awesome journey, you know, being able to show people, you know, there is something after the effect, you know what I mean? When you pass away, there is something there. I've been there, you know, it's good to be able to show people that there is something there. So that's why I do it, and to help too, because a lot of these things are kind of negative sometimes. And if you can help cross them over. And I know it doesn't, you know, it goes against paranormal investigating because you want them to be there to investigate. But if you can make them pass over or let them pass over or give them a chance to, you know, kind of clean up that energy a little bit, that's what we kind of go for.
Yep.
Can I ask you a question, Mike?
Yes, ma'am.
Um, do you have any recollection of what it was like on the other side? Like, did you know that you died on this?
So the first time, not really. It was like a bunch of flashes. That's when I started seeing things, and hearing voices. But it's been 5 major surgeries, being cut up from my sternum down, to, you know, below my belly button. And then, so I've actually passed away 3 times in the last 3 years that I can actually remember what happened. I can remember seeing what was going on, and I freaked my nurses out because I was telling them what happened to me, and there was like, "There's no way you knew that," because they gave me a shock inside my chest. They reached in with these little pouch, boop, and I was able to tell them, you know, what color they were, you know, what voltage they were on, and all of that. So, you know, I did experience seeing that. And then the last time, it was more of a spiritual thing because I was talking to people, past relatives, ancestor, bloodline, and there was something angelic about that, that really made me kind of step back and realize that I had to change my life, and everybody around me had to realize that we're not guaranteed anything. It's real short, you know, time is a construct. And if you go by that construct, you ain't got much. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So it was a good eye opener. And I've become very spiritual since then, you know, because religion was always forced on me. So I was the rebellion kind, you know what I mean? So
Mm.
to be spiritual now is like a blessing. So
Wow, that's incredible. And how strong you are too, having gone through that 3 times. My goodness.
yeah, that's why I want to show everybody it's there. You know, we leave our energy behind when we go, or we get stuck here. You know, unfortunately, we get stuck here. I would hate for anybody to get stuck here, but some of us do, and some of us have things to take care of. But that's why I do it. That's why I love it. Be able to show people, you know, this isn't our only life. We've been here. We've done this many times over. Not everybody can tap into that.
Excuse me.
Mm.
Well, that's what makes, I guess, our paranormal team different. when it comes to different paranormal teams out there. And one thing, I guess don't feel yourself classified as, I'm not saying you are, but what I've learned from talking to different paranormal investigators and so forth like that, when it comes to paranormal, that there's 3 kinds of paranormal teams out there right now. First being your typical clout chasers. They only do this for the fame. They only do this to get likes or follows or views or however they want. They want to be the next Ghost Adventures, the next Ghost Hunters. That level of fame and basically exploiting the paranormal when it comes together. Those are the clout chasers. And then there's a second class. Paranormal investigators will film what they do, but they have respect for the dead. They communicate with the dead. They try talking to them, try to understand why are you still here and stuff like that. They respect who died and who, the aspects of where they are investigating and stuff like that. They still film. They still want to capture evidence because they want to show people that this stuff exists, but in the right ways. And then there's a third kind, which is me and Mike's team. That's only mission. Our only mission is to go to location, place to place, take out all the dark entities possible, and help all the light spirits that want to cross over. And we never force anybody to leave. In investigations that me and Mike have done so far, we've never forced anybody. Well,
You
scratch that.
can't.
We forced the dark ones. We took the dark ones away from the place. But as for light spirits, regular human spirits, and ghosts like that,
Their choice.
yeah, it's their choice. We leave it up to them most of the time. But a lot have chosen to stay at some of the locations we've been to. Some have chosen, hey, I kind of like it here now. You took away the big bully. I kind of want to stay here. And then some choose to go because they're, finally free. Thank you for taking that person away. Now I can actually go, which we've experienced at a couple of places we've been to before. But from my experience, those are the 3 kinds of paranormal teams so far that I've encountered. Well, 2 mainly that I've encountered the most, but then of course the third being my team. And so far, I don't think there's a lot of teams out there that, let's say, share our perspective, but or at least can do what we do. But that's where the whole Shadow Walker Paranormal came from. Is essentially my ability that Peeta's friend Jane actually gave me. She was the one that actually coined the phrase for me and stuff like that. But I've earned other titles from then, but no title more like Keeper of the Second. That I would say is the first one that I ever heard. But
Appreciate it.
yeah, that's. I mean, I have a few, but that's a good one. What essentially? I mean, you guys always give a little bit of why you got into investigating, but what, I guess, pushed the urge to investigate, or like Keeper, urban explore places that could potentially have spirits and stuff like that, and get into the paranormal community altogether.
Mhm. I mean, for me, I've had my runs with unexplained things happening to me. It was me, my original crew, me, Millie, the one who brought me into it, and her crew. It was all of us. We were in a abandoned factory, one of those giant ruins, maybe 2, 3 football fields, and we were like dead center. And we were walking and talking, and we see this older gentleman behind us walking behind us and calling us out, be like, "Hey, come here." And we're like, "Okay, cool, whatever." We got caught. They're going to ask us to get off the property, or B, he's probably going to walk us out to the cops, and we're going to get a trespassing fine. So we meet up the man halfway, and this man is older gentleman, white hair, glasses like this, maybe 5'7", 5'8" tall. And he was professionally look decent. And we were just chit-chatting with him, stuff like that. And 5-10 minutes to go down, and we're still talking to the man. He's telling us certain things, what this about to do. And after that, he's like, "All right, y'all be safe. Y'all go have fun and stuff." We're walking one way. He walks the other way. We're like, it's kind of odd. And we all look behind us. Man's completely gone. Man's like,
Whoa.
man's completely gone. And we're like, we just had it. Like, I still today can't even believe it. But doing my research after we all went home, found out this man was the the owner of the factory and how he died. He was on one of the catwalks, and he flipped over the railing, and his whole body got shredded in one of the gears.
Oh my
So,
god.
so that
Horrible.
so that kind of like that was
Like,
like part of it, part of the thing of the whole paranormal. I feel like that was the start of it, but and I just kept going, doing my own thing for a few years, and then met Colin from the Paranormal Pals, and then just came back. And I was like, yeah, let's get down and dirty for real and see what happens.
You know, coming to get into intros. That's a good one.
Yeah, yeah. It was.
So
It was
obviously he looks like very corporeal then, like a real person.
yeah. We thought we were getting in trouble. We legit thought this was security. No, but no, he was the owner of the whole place. Guess he wanted to talk to somebody. Hasn't talked to anybody for years, so place was abandoned for like 40 plus years. So I guess so.
yeah, unexpected death. It holds a lot of energy.
Definitely.
Mm.
It's very
Wow.
where Josh is at right now. Very active there.
Yeah.
It's you're crowded.
Yeah,
I
it's funny, Mike,
imagine.
because I was thinking the same thing.
I can imagine the last time I investigated this building that we're at, I'm sitting at a table, and it's a very solid, steady table. And my wife and I were in here. It's a place called Benson Grist Mill in Stansbury, Utah. So yeah, it's an old, there was an old grist mill here, and they eventually, like, it went into ruin, and the owners who bought the property ended up restoring the mill. And then they moved a bunch of like other pioneer cabins and other projects onto this property. And so this is one of those cabins that was brought onto the property. It was owned by a man by the name of Eric Pierce. This is his house. He built this cabin. It's not very big, maybe 10 by 10. So it's really tiny, but this is his house. This is where he lived.
Yeah.
But we were in here investigating. We were just doing like a dowsing rod. Or sorry, we weren't doing dowsing rod. We were just doing an EVP section. And both of our hands were on, above the table. And from underneath the table, there was a knock. And it's like, well, that's really cool. It's pitch black in the day. And they're like, hey, if that was you, do it again. And then, 4 or 5 seconds later, knock. And
That's
we end up,
awesome.
yeah, it was so cool. We found out it was a little kid that did it, like 6-year-old little boy or no, 6-year-old little girl.
That's what I was going to
Yeah.
say. Curiosity. There's a lot of curiosity. Like,
Yeah.
they're almost loving that you're there, kind of stuff. Like, they're
Yeah.
getting somebody's attention.
And there's several kids that are here, and they love hanging out. They
I was
love
going to say
here.
that. Mm.
So,
Yeah, like
and-
from like picking up male and female, boy and girls.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
And this place gets investigated a lot. There's probably, I don't know, 30 to 40 investigations a year at this mill. And so everybody, comes out and investigates because it's very calm. It's very quiet. There's not a lot of negative energy here. There's only 2 of them, and they stick to very secluded spots. So
but I think they're more it's older than the settlers. That ties to the land.
Man,
yeah.
Yeah, you have some land issues going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a very, like, the Paiute Indians use this land quite a bit before the pioneers, the Mormon pioneers came over and settled this area. It's very native, indigenous people wise first, and then the Mormon pioneers used this land. And now it's just it's a state park, what it is.
Yeah. And you got to remember too, they were being pushed out at the time too. So the more that we pushed that way, the more the Indians got pushed that way too. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah. And the Paiute were pushed over the mountains, over the Wasatch Mountains onto the west side, which there's not a lot out there. It's salt flats. It's awful. It's awful territory out there.
yeah,
It's something
It's
I forgot
really
to
bad.
mention. If anyone's clueless what the hell's going on, both Mike and Peeta are psychics in our little round table here. So if they get any messages or they're channeling or they feel anything, it's because something's going on. So, and then of course, Josh being at a haunted location right now doesn't help that process. So,
Nice.
Doesn't hurt it though.
yeah, it doesn't hurt either. Yeah.
doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
I thought I saw a face in the window behind you.
That's possible. There's no way it's a person though. There's about 8 inches of room between this cabin and it's an old like RV camper thing that's behind me. It's used for storage now, but yeah. So there's no way that if there was a face back there, there's no way it's human, or at least a living individual, I should say.
I'd have to go back to the footage to find that, but if there is, we'll point
Yeah,
out a
me
little
too.
circle thing. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Got me looking over his shoulder now.
Something I forgot to say beforehand. I think I've mentioned a couple of times. Peeta and Mike already know, but things that are paranormal ghost wise that you're at your place with can transfer to our place and for vice versa. Anything that's here can go to there. Anything that's your place can come here. And that's all around. Doesn't necessarily matter. And Peeta knows all too well what I can do with situations that call for bad things to happen. But so far, nothing bad has shown up. So we're all good.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that's reassuring.
With a 7-minute delay, that one night I was trying to help her, and there was like a 7-minute delay from my comments to when she got them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that live investigation I did with you about a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to read the spot like I am with Josh right now.
Oh,
And Keeper, yeah, you got some things floating around you too. I don't know if you know that, but
I've
your heart
Say again.
chakra is way out of balance right now.
what's up?
Your heart chakra is way out of balance right now.
That's a first. I've had a lot of people. I've done my last location that I did was in Kansas. At one of what I've got to explore with paranormal investigator up there in Kansas at one of the demonic theaters, and I spent 2.5, 3 nights there with the whole team. We slept in there. We did everything in there. And what they said to me was like, I only remember bits and pieces of it because of what happened that night. Like everything just, I don't know what happened. Like, so I haven't even edited that footage, and that's been almost 2 years.
Wow.
So yeah, that's why I kind of like somewhat stayed away from the paranormal, but I'm slowly creeping back in. But I'm back into the baby steps again.
You know how to protect
yeah.
yourself,
Like,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have some good friends who do the whole dark witchcraft, the good witchcraft. I have multiple people who have helped me throughout this whole situation. And it's helped me a lot. Like if you met me last year, it was up and down. It was a roller coaster.
It was
did
this.
you cleanse yourself with sage recently?
Isaac, I don't know if you can see that, but that's what I got from him.
Oh, is that what you just drew?
Yeah.
That was around him.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Can you see that, Keith? Have you ever?
Yeah.
I now you've seen this. So this come across you as
I
a shadow person, you
think
said you've been somewhere where somebody was that he kept peeking at you. Like did you get evidence of somebody peeking around a corner or something?
that could have been York. I used to work for, I used to help out around the most haunted hospital here in Texas, Yorktown Memorial Hospital. I used to work for them. They gave me the opportunity because I do my photography work in abandoned buildings. So they gave me opportunity to work, to my work in there with me and my buddy. We had the whole hospital to ourselves. Front doors were locked. And she took this picture and she was like, "We're the only two." And I'm like, "Yeah, we're the only two. What's up?" So so she took the shot. I'm here, she's here, side by side. She took the shot down the hallway and there's like an intersection. This is what she caught. And this was like 3 years ago. So like an actual,
An actual shadow person.
yeah, that was a shadow person. But I mean, it was going back to that picture that you drew. That I remember that figure, that face. That was from the theater.
Oh, really?
I think it was from. I think it was from the theater. I want to say so because I mean that was like the most dark investigation out of 5 years I've done the paranormal.
It makes sense. It makes sense. That's why I asked him, make sure you're protecting yourself. I feel like Josh is very spiritually sound. You know what I mean?
Definitely try to stay protected. We've gone into some pretty nasty places. So
and I'm about to go again. I'm about to do another road trip, so I'm about to go back.
Just make sure you're protecting yourself. Okay.
Funny enough, that you bring that up, Mike, because I just told you a couple minutes ago. When I said that you have nothing to worry about when it comes to dark things around here, I think I explained to Josh a little bit beforehand. You probably haven't heard about this. Peeta knows all too well, so does Mike. I have an innate ability to pull dark entities off the plane, and I do so with my hands, right? The energy I can feel with my hands, and I pull the energy into my hand, almost like it's all of it at one time, and then I could transfer it to an object. An object I've been using for the last year and a half now is a ring. To be specific, a King Solomon ring. Replica anyway, not the real one. You can imagine who.
Trying to hold him
that-
in his body.
Yeah.
But
He was trying to hold him in himself, and we had to give him something
Ooh.
in.
well, I filter it
Ooh.
anyway. But that's a different story. But my ability allows me to pull things also from anywhere I can physically see. So if something was at Peeta's place or Josh's place or Mike's place or even yours, I can pull that and take it here. And people who listen to podcasts know Shadow Walker episodes 1 through 3 explain all my abilities altogether. But about 10 minutes ago, I pulled something from your side, which might have been that.
Mike's side or mine?
Your side, which might have been what Mike just showed you. It was relatively strong. I would have to go into the ring to confirm what it was or what not. But yeah, whatever was around you at the moment that Mike drew, I took it away, and Peeta's probably going there now to look. You keep closing your eyes like you think you're channeling in.
Yeah,
So I don't
Yeah.
think that thing you necessarily have to worry about anymore. I don't know if Mike still feels
I know. I know. Who knows?
He-
Yeah, I know. There's a couple more.
He's
But,
been
I'm sorry. I keep seeing a lady with plaits.
With what?
A lady with plaits, like plaited hair, like two, like long plaits.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know. I know what you're talking about. That's probably Millie. She usually hangs out with me. So she hasn't like,
Oh.
you know.
I kind of feel like this might be something we don't want to do on the podcast.
No, I feel like this is probably more personal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe
Yeah.
afterwards
I
we can
feel
talk about this.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
you. I feel you. That's why I said something. I can feel you.
Don't worry about it.
Hey, Isaac,
Yeah.
how do you, like when you're like pulling away, like, dark and light energies at locations, how does the location feel about that? Or do you not tell them?
I mean, of course they know, but to be specific, I never pull any light entities whatsoever. Humans, spirits, good spirits, I never take off the plane. I kind of leave them to their devices. Megan and Mike always communicate with them about if they want to cross over or not. Sometimes they choose to stay. Sometimes they need a little help, and that's where Megan and Mike come in to help do that. But no, so far we have seen consistent gratitude for taking
Yes.
away dark entities off the plane. The last investigation we did was at Patsy's Pond, a place here close by that was original settlers' location. I took away 3 entities that were deceased witches, dark witches,
Ooh.
that stayed at the location to torment the dead that were still there. They used the dead that were there as power-ups, and any normal
Sure.
people that use the trails going there, they like tormenting those people, especially anyone who hung there overnight. But I took 1, 2, and the last one actually came over the spirit box thing we were using. You could hear her laugh, like like your typical like witch cackles, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And she charged me, and of course, like I said a million times before, it couldn't. Once I started pulling, that was the end, because so far nothing's been able to stop me. But no, after that, a lot of spirits were thankful. Some crossed over. Many actually chose to stay, but the ones that chose to stay, we haven't gone there back again. But I think both Mike and Megan got the feel that some were slaves that were there previously, and a lot were Native Americans.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is it deep ties to the earth itself? The ones that want to be where they're at are comfortable where they're at.
Yeah. And we don't ever make those people go. We're like, okay, you want to stay, you can stay, but we cleared the place for you.
Ooh.
You can't really take away residual either. That's an imprint
Yeah.
Yeah.
on your surroundings.
Mm. And yeah, I mean, you can't cross the spirit over. Well, this is, what I've been, read and been told, but the spirit has to be willing
Yeah.
to cross over. So
Well, I guess this is a subject we talk about right now. Is that the spirits that we come across? A lot of them choose to stay, and I guess from your own experiences, I guess we want to go around and talk about the idea of why we feel some spirits choose to stay. By my own experience, I think Mike has come across it too. Probably has his own perspective. I hate talking for you, but we worked together for so long. I like, yeah. Well, my perspective so far from my time investigating is a lot of them have unfinished business, and that's what the old terminology that I've been using for years is unfinished business, a reason to stay behind. But that was before I started doing what I do, and after I started doing what I do, I figured out that a lot of them, most locations we've been to, especially if there's anything dark there, are stuck there because those dark entities are keeping those people there. And they can't leave. They want to, but they can't. They're stuck there because the dark entities are using or bullying the other spirits into staying there. And so far, most places we've been to, it's been that kind of case. Now, I'm not saying that's everywhere, but I'm saying that's some of the places so far we have been to that has been that situation. But spirits that come to my house, literally to Megan, and because Megan, of course, the co-host on In the Shadows, also very powerful psychic, they come to her to help them cross because they need her to communicate with someone who is still alive, like a friend, a family member, something that they didn't get to say while they were alive, but after they did, they didn't have a chance to tell that person, and they need to for some reason whatsoever. But those are the essentially reasons we found so far why, or at least in my experience, why spirits tend to hang out. But I guess what are your guys' perspectives on why you believe some spirits choose to stay behind?
well, I mean, I'm kind of yeah, like I agree with, you know, what you've said. You know, we have got a really old pub to like tavern to investigate, and Jen and I went up there earlier this year, and you know, like the owner was, you know, a bit skeptical, you know, especially, you know, with me like picking up different things, and so, you know, like I pick up this spirit. It's a male, and he's just sitting at this table, and he's just waiting. And you know, the owner's there, and she's just listening. And I said, "Oh, I get the name Luke. Uh, I get names a lot. Not all the time, but I do get them a lot." And so I decided to pull out, you know, a bit, you know, a few pieces of equipment, and sure enough, like, you know, our K2 starts spiking. Um, you know, we captured some like really good EVPs and everything, but he had been waiting there. So he's basically just sitting there waiting, um, because he got into an altercation fight a very, very long time ago. And he's waiting for that person to come back so he can, you know, apologize for what he did. Um, so uh, yeah, and I told him, I said, look, you know, he's he's not coming back, but yeah, he's still sitting there waiting. So you know, I agree 100% with your theory, and think that's unfinished business, or yeah, for whatever reason.
Josh should be kind of quiet. Get a
Yeah. Yeah. So we have, I mean, yeah, the unfinished business, that's pretty a common thing that we've ran into. Well, but we have a couple other theories too that we've ran into. There's a belief of, you know, as in life, as in death. So if you were a butthole in life, you're going to be a butthole in death. You're going to be a butthole spirit. And you know, there's those of us who believe that across the veil, when you cross over, there's judgment, right? And if you knew that you're going to be judged and you're not going to be judged well, why would you go? Why would you cross over? Because you know what's waiting for you on the other side, and it's not going to be pleasant. So they're like, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to be a butthole here because I can't. And then the other thing we ran into as well is we ran into this lady. There's an older lady. We were at, it was a place called Lava Hot Springs Inn. It's a bed and breakfast now. It used to be the old Tooele, not Tooele. I can't remember the name of the hospital. It used to be an old hospital. And then at one point in time, after it was a hospital, it became a geriatric center. And then it went into disrepair, and then the new owner bought it and he turned it into a bed and breakfast. So it's up in Lava Hot Springs, Idaho. It's got all these wonderful hot springs out front, all this native energy. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. But we ran into this lady in the basement, and she was so mad at her family for putting her in the home that she just held on to this anger and this resentment well after her death. And we asked her, it's like, well, is there anyone living still that you have this anger towards? And she's like, no, I don't. There's nobody else to be angry with. I want to go. And so we ended up helping her cross over at that point in time, because it's like, she was ready at that point.
Yeah.
You know? And so I don't know if that's not quite the unfinished business. It's more like fight, right? It's more like, you know, I'll show you. I won't cross over. I'll show you. I'll just stick around.
Well, you got to figure too that, you know, on the other side, there is no time.
Right.
You know, there is no, it's been 40 some years. To them, it's a blink of an eye. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's a little different for them, but that's amazing that you guys did that and actually crossed them over.
Yeah, we've done that. So my wife's done that before. I've done it. And then we have someone on our team who does it, who's much more talented at it and does it well. It was really cool. It was last year, right around the turn of the, like right around, probably right after Betty White died, I think is what it was. And we were staying in her house, and my wife was doing Marco Polo. I don't know if you guys know what that is.
Yeah.
But
Marco.
yeah, so
Well,
yeah, no, it's actually, it's an app where you can do video messages to your friends and stuff. And
Oh.
so yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's not the game, it's actually an app.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
what was cool is my wife was Marco Poloing one of our other teammates, because they talk all the time. And there was an EVP that came through on the Marco Polo. And so we found out that we had 4 spirits in the house that had just shown up, and they came to our house to be crossed over. They sought us out, but we did this little EVP session. We did a 20-minute EVP session, and there were 14 EVPs in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, you got their attention. When you start doing things like that, you start getting their attention.
Yeah. They start seeking you out because they know who to look for.
Well, see, in going on from that, I kind of have this theory, and I also kind of see it, in my third eye, is that anyone who has any kind of ability, whether it's just clairvoyance or you're a psychic or anything like that, where you're just sensitive, that we kind of glow, like we have a glow to us, like a light, right?
Yeah.
And some, say like, Mike, he's got a very, very strong abilities. So, he'd be like super, super bright. And then someone who might just be a little bit sensitive has a light, but it's a lot dimmer. And that's kind of how I see it from the spirit's eyes.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. It's and so they just know who
It's
to
like a
go
beacon.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they just, I don't know, they just know who to go to. And I don't know if you've experienced this during investigations, but like if you're the one hearing like disembodied voices and things like that, and no one else is hearing them,
Yeah.
I think that, spirits choose who they want to communicate with,
Definitely.
as
Definitely.
well.
Oh, exactly.
Because I'll have a spirit like say something to me, and it will be loud, and I'll just be like, "Oh, come on, like you guys must, like, you heard that, right?" And they're just like, "No." And I'm like, "How could you not hear that? It was so loud." But
I do it all the time. I'm like, "You hear that?" They're like, "No." What was it?
yeah, like Jen and Adam say to me like, "Ew, why do you even ask us?" And it's just a natural reaction, like, "Oh my god, like what the hell was that?" And they're like, "Didn't hear anything."
Right.
Mm.
I'll be lucky to hear anything. Most things don't ever, get too close, and most of the times I can't hear anything they're saying anyway, unless they say it out loud for everybody to hear. But you psychics have it so lucky.
Oh, I tell you what, the creepiest one that I've had is, when Sean and I, there's a town called York. It's a couple of hours out of Perth, and the entire town is haunted. Like, and there's a lot of ties to land and the Aboriginals and things like that. And Sean and I were going to be, investigating all night. So we thought, oh, we'll just, lay down for an hour and kind of recharge and stuff like that. And I laid down, and I've got, my left ear on the pillow. And in that left ear, I hear, "Hey, baby." And I sat up so quick and was like, "What the hell?" And Sean said, "What?" And I'm like, "Did you not hear that?" And she said, "No." And but the way the spirit said it, it was so creepy, like, "Hey, baby." and it was so loud. And I'm like, how is that in my left ear? Like when I'm actually laying on that ear. So I kept questioning myself, like, am I just like going crazy? Am I hearing things? Am I like, what is going on?
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, you can say something, Josh?
Yeah, I was gonna say not quite similar to that, but we were taking this tour through this haunted house. You guys might have heard of it. It's been on a couple of TV shows. It's called Asylum 49. And we were going through this place, and there was this room called the Egyptian room. They were having some paranormal activity in there. But on this tour we were going through, I'm the last person out of this door as we're walking out. And there's this little cubby hole to my right, probably where someone would stand and like scare people during the haunted, when it was on, during the haunted house times. But I get this guy that comes into my right ear, and you can kind of almost feel the breath on your ear. He's like, "See you soon." It's like, well, that's creepy.
See you soon. I tell you what, when I die, I've got a list.
Okay,
Like,
well, you're
I've
gonna
got
bet.
hell yeah. And I have like, friends of mine, who are also investigators. And it's like, okay, so if you die and I'm still investigating, make sure you come to wherever I am. And, we can just, get some really good footage. Because it'd be great to just, sit down, pull up a chair, have a cup of tea.
Right.
But speaking of which, what are some of your most guess profound paranormal experiences? At least ones that scared the crap out of you the most.
Wow.
Yeah.
You go from like scary to profound, like what, aren't they?
Either or. Sometimes they're one and the same. Sometimes they're different. So
Oh, what was that?
No, that was me. Oh, that was me. I was,
All right, who's going first?
Keeper's been quiet. Let's have Keeper go.
I mean, I'm just listening. I'm still a rookie. I'm still a rookie to all this.
that's right.
I'd probably say, probably definitely do the Demon Theater's on the top of the list for sure. A lot of like, I don't know, it's just a lot of things were going on that both nights. It was just left and right, left and right. It was what the investigator who was there, who gave us the opportunity to do it. He was like, "There's multiple portals here, there, all of this," and it was just heavy the whole night. We did the whole necrophonics kind of deal, put the headphones on, covered the eyes and deal, but they took it the next level. They tied me to the chair, left me for a good hour, and with the walkie-talkie, they were outside in my car and just talking, and it was just like left and right, just talking, listening to them talk, and I just felt them all. It just darkness, everything, just everybody who was there, the entities, the paranormal, the demons, everything was just there talking. And to put it on the other level too, my buddy behind me, no words. He was doing the same thing, nothing. So they were just channeling through me the whole night. And then the following night, we went to a brothel, an abandoned brothel. I had the opportunity to actually meet one of the behind the scenes kind of guy from the Ghost Adventures. He was one of the cameramen. He owned this brothel,
Oh,
and we had the opportunity to do it. Same thing. A lot of dark entities there, stuff going on. But one thing that night, early that morning. We're packing up. We're just chit-chatting in here, and all you hear is the women's heels on top, just walking their rounds, getting ready for the day and stuff. And we're like, what the hell is going on? And you can hear them talking like throughout the whole thing. And I'm like, what the hell? What the heck is going on? It's cool. But I freaked out.
Yeah.
I mean,
So with the footsteps and like hearing the heels, debunking channels have really kind of started taking off on YouTube, and one of them has talked about, like, if a ghost isn't like human like anymore, they're not corporeal, then and investigators put it in their episodes all the time. Footsteps. I'm hearing footsteps. And stuff like that. And but how is that? How does it happen? And how, when they're not corporeal, are they making sounds? And I, explained to one of them that it's no different to a disembodied voice. It's disembodied bloody footsteps, like.
yeah. It's just, yeah, it definitely is.
What's been I guess a intense experience or at profound experience that you might have dealt with, at least recently, over your time as an investigator?
Who?
You.
Oh, me. Oh, as an investigator, probably with a dark entity at a cemetery that isn't, it's local, but we captured the first time, the very first investigation that we actually ever filmed, we caught this flying thing, like, go straight towards the camera, and when you pause the image, it looks like almost a dark angel, but the head looks like a KKK like type hood. It's really bizarre. It was also very frustrating because everyone kept saying, "Oh no, that's just her breath," and it's definitely not my breath, because this thing moves at like supersonic speed. But yeah, we always, every single time we went up there to investigate, we'd always like experience just, there was a lot of chatter, but then this negative energy was coming through all the time, and I would get like a searing kind of burning, stabbing pain, just below my rib cage and all of that. And when I had Jane over here, I took her up there, and we went in the gate, and this cemetery, has got gum trees all around the edges, and it has a couple within the actual cemetery itself, but it is pitch black. It's just got this darkness over it. It was very odd. And we kind of just thought, okay, it's just the area, blah blah blah. But it, even when it was a full moon, it was still just pitch black. And so we're walking into the cemetery. We've only just started to like turn our gear on, like, and start filming, and we have these thundering, because we're on the central pathway. We had these thundering like footsteps, like running, like doosh 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 towards us, like it just sounded like, you know, Clydesdale horses. They got the really big feet, right? It sounded bigger, heavier than that. And I just remember Jane like yelling out, grabbing onto me because it all happened so fast. And but you can hear this like whoosh. So it's like douche, 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 whoosh. And then it's gone, right? And you know, Jane actually like bruised me. She grabbed me that hard. And yeah, it took us a little second to process what had just happened. And you know, I thought to myself, is this because, you know, she hasn't been before and you know, this energy is just trying to scare her type thing. But we both just had this feeling of dread, and that's probably the only time I've decided that okay, I don't think we should hang around. So we ended up leaving, and at the very we waited a couple of weeks before we went back, and we made sure we put up like triple protection, but we hadn't communicated to one another what kind of protection we were doing or the strength at which we were doing it. And you know, we get up there same time of night, and you know, we pull up, we turn the car lights off, and the cemetery's lights, like you can actually see the headstones. And I said to her, something's different, something's not right. And she was, you know, picking up the same thing. And then because I have Archangel Michael as like he's my main guide, and so we go into the cemetery, and I said to her like, okay, something is like different, it's very quiet. And then we kind of started talking about, okay, is it just waiting to pounce? Or, you know, has our protection? And that's when we started discussing what protection we put up over ourselves. And we'd done the same thing. We'd, you know, done it threefold. We ended up getting absolutely nothing. And so I think like our protection just basically wiped out all spirits communicating with us. And I said to her, this is bizarre because I've come up here and investigated the cemeteries so many bloody times and have always had communication, and it was just dead as a doornail. And then, you know, as we're kind of like, you know, about to call it type thing, I just like get this image of Michael standing up the back corner of this cemetery, and like he was huge, and he was basically standing guard. And across the road is like a big like national forest, and I'd kept like sensing that it, you know, this negative thing was over there. And yeah, so Michael was actually keeping this energy from coming back in. But that's probably the only time I've been freaked out. And I don't think I would have freaked out to that degree if Jane hadn't have screamed and like bolted back into me. But yeah, it was a pretty significant experience.
Josh, what's been your profound experience, or at least most intense that you've dealt with lately, or over your time as
Wow.
investigator?
Yeah, that's
One that's
there's a couple. There's a couple. So
we've investigated for the last 4 years. We didn't do it this year, but for 4 years, we investigated the same prison up in Montana. It's the old Montana State Prison in Deer Lodge, Montana. And we were up there investigating, and you do a 12-hour investigation. So you get the whole building from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And you just stay there. You stay in there, you're locked in, they leave you alone, you just go. We were over in maximum security. This is 2 years ago. And I brought out a Tibetan singing bowl. Oof. And there's a negative energy that hangs out in maximum security, along with all the other human negative energies that are there, right? And so I took this bowl out and I'm like, I'm going to play a song for you. And as soon as I started playing, I felt all of the despair and angst and anguish was all thrust upon me at one moment. It was super overwhelming. I'm starting to well up and starting to tear up as I'm playing this bowl. And I can see as I'm playing, there's a second hand over the top of my hand as I'm playing. And so this ended up actually being one of my Native American spirit guides that was assisting me in this. What was neat is I didn't play very long, maybe 30, 40. But when I stopped playing, you heard this mocking echo of the bowl being played from the negative entity. And so it's kind of like mocking back at it. And so that's probably the most like emotional I've ever been during an investigation. I mean, usually I'm pretty even keeled on that. But the scariest moment I've ever had is unexplainable, to be honest. We were in this old mining town called Eureka. It's Eureka, Utah. It still exists. I mean, there's still people that live there. It's very small now, but we were in this old abandoned bank building, and I'm in the back of the building, and we were on a public investigation with another paranormal group, and they're like, sometimes there's a spirit that hangs out in this closet. And so she opened the door and immediately I felt like something rushed out at me. And I'm sitting up against this wall. And I'm not a small guy, 6'1". And I wanted to crawl back through the wall. And that's how like terrified I was of nothing that you can see, right?
Yeah.
And they all left. And my wife was sitting there and I'm like, hey, can you close the door? And once she closed the door, that's when I could actually move and the fear went away. But yeah, I mean, it's not this, I've been touched. That stuff doesn't bother me. I've seen spirits. That stuff doesn't bother me. But it was something like that's the most terrifying moment I've ever had. And it's hard to explain. Just it's like nothing really happened.
Yeah.
It sounds similar to mine, where it's just this invisible force, like charging at you, and you just
Flight or
instinct.
flight moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've wanted to go back and investigate, but the old owner has sold that whole row of buildings. And now there's like a secondhand like typewriter store in there. And they're not really open. And they're not open to having investigators come in. I've tried.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Mike, I know I've probably heard it about 1,000 times, but I guess what would be your profound or scary moment?
As you know, I've been privy or participated in a couple of exorcisms, almost the same as what you guys are saying, but on a very large scale. To see what full possession will do to somebody will really put you on your heels. You know what I mean? That's the scariest moment I had, is when you're facing somebody that's a female and you're getting, grown men, Latin words coming out of their mouth and they don't even know Latin. So like that was the scariest moment for me, was being part of the exorcism and actually feeling and helping get through that emotional state of an exorcism it was very overwhelming, and really put me in my place. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, made me more humble about what I do. Um, and I always tell people to protect themselves because I've seen that. I've seen that scary part of what can happen if you give them control. You know what I mean?
I think that's the one thing people forget too, is that we still have control. That
Yeah.
those types of things are an invitation. You have to let them play. And if you don't let them play, they're not going to play.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
They just give you consistent shit until you either turn in or they basically just move on, or unless they have some kind of reason to be there or want
You know,
to be there.
the same night you were talking about footsteps. Now, this is so during the exorcism, it sounded like a horse or, hooves on wood,
Mm.
and it was under the floor, and you can feel it like the horse was running upside down across the floor.
Oh.
So that, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm saying that was one of my scariest moments to actually see and hear and experience that moment of, spiritual warfare where you really, hey, you're small in the totem pole. You're very insignificant compared, you know what I mean? So be grateful that you can call on who you can call on. And,
Mm.
and it was a good eye opener.
So when you were doing the exorcism, sorry, Isaac,
Oh,
was it, did you see, like, did the female, like, change? Like,
On one of the
Okay.
videos, and unfortunately I don't have access to the videos anymore, for obvious reasons, you know what I mean? But it was almost like her face contorted. So like you're looking at physical face and turns and starts screaming and goes to look at you. And in that instant of, hey, it like the face just don't look right. You know what I mean? The contorted, like you- what I call the death face. You know, you see that, when they allow you to see what they look like now, like their death, you know, the rotten part. I don't know if you've ever experienced that yet. But that's the scariest moment I ever had, and that was straight on. That was a succubus, so that was a very interesting
Mm.
ordeal.
And do you need their name when you're doing an exorcism? Do you need the
I-
demon's name or?
Yeah, we ended up getting the name from it, and that's when you really get a foothold and push them out. Um, and that was before Isaac was even part of, uh, you know, going to the exorcisms and stuff with us. Um, he didn't get to experience that. It'd be a little easier with him around with some of the things he does. But it was a scary moment. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yet experience it yet. In our line of work, there's always going to be an opportunity to do that. So we'll find
Yes.
out how I stand up against them, or at least in that situation. But I guess
He's
this is
so eager. You're so eager, but I'm just like, oh, okay. It is daunting. I'll give you that.
I'm always up for a challenge. That's what I was saying.
Oh,
Like,
no, that's
it's that
I was
warrior
just
sense
gonna
of
say,
mind. It's like I want the fight. Yeah.
yeah. I was
Yeah.
just gonna say Isaac's about to say like, "Let me at it," or
Yeah.
Let me
yeah,
at it.
but
Let me at it.
yeah. Bring it on.
Yeah. I guess one of the other things I wanted to talk about amongst investigators. Now I know we always have our favorite gear, things we like to use more than anything, whether it be an app or a piece of equipment that we like particularly to go to the most. But what is something, a technique used for that said gear, or even a future invention or contraption you came up with your own, or a technique that you come up with your own that's specific that you've seen helps the most with communicating?
Josh. Keith.
Yeah. I think we use, we use dowsing rods a lot, but that's not the same. We found very good use of yes, what we have found. Because we've gotten all sorts of manner of words coming out that aren't going to be part of the FCC channel. So when we do the FC's method, we use the SD7 spirit box is what we use. And so, we're not relying on a word bank or anything like that. But we sat down to one place and the first thing that came out was the F word. And it's like, yep, that is not something that's going to be a part of normal radio broadcast.
Yeah.
So that has always been fun. We've done it we did it in Death Row. We've done it in other places. And it's worked out very well for us. The funnest one that we had though, I got to tell you, we were at an old cement factory and it was at the end of the night and weren't really getting a whole lot of anything. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start speaking Spanish. And let me tell you, my Spanish is like 4 sentences long. But as soon as we did that, we started getting Spanish responses. Full Spanish sentences back.
Wow.
And I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard a lot of languages, voodoo, Native American, Spanish, French, German. I reckon it's just where we live at. It's like a melting pot here of all the languages, but I've heard a lot of investigations.
Oh,
Peeta, any new techniques you've been using, or at least new devices you might have added to your repertoire of investigation gear?
Ooh.
me?
Yeah,
Okay.
you, Peeta.
Well, so I mean, we've got a lot of little experiments that we're trying. One is like, with the Ouija board. But I will not touch it. I won't even let him.
Playing with fire.
Yeah. But I love doing, EVP sessions. We did one, we went to an abandoned hospital on Friday night and we
My
did
favorite.
one session. Yeah, we did one and then we didn't really get any EVPs and it didn't even pick up like everyone's questions. It was both recorders were kind of like messed with. And then so we, did a second one and yeah, when I've basically just said, okay, recorder 1 down and then, all right, recorder 2. And then you hear this male voice come through and say, you've got to be joking. Like I played it like a few times and it's like, you got to be joking. Like, as in, we're doing this again, really? I thought that was quite funny. But yeah, I love doing, the Estes method as well.
Keeps. I know you said you're getting back into it, but whether at the time when you were investigating or urban exploring, was there a particular technique you used with the camera to capture stuff, or did you use special lenses or any other techniques that you think you might have used differently from most people?
Honestly, it was more of the fact like when I explored and stuff, doing all that, I I take my camera and I'm just there to photograph because mostly I'm contracted out for private companies, private people and stuff to take photos for at different abandoned buildings. But with when I was working with Colin and stuff for the Paranormal Files for his show and all, um, we mostly just went in with his cameras and that was it. We didn't really bring all this equipment with us. We just went with an open mind. with our camera, and that was it. We just went with flow. Like, yeah, we had some we had some equipment, but not a lot. It was just more of the fact, hands-on, ears, listening to what we can hear, and whatever the camera picked up, that was it. That was what it picked up.
That's interesting. I don't know what Mike's been cooking up without me, but I guess Mike, you want to talk about too, I guess everyone, because I mean I already know, but I mean everyone else might be listening, stuff like that. The technique that we seems to work the best for us.
I don't know. Every situation is a little different though.
Yeah.
But usually in our biggest weapon that we have in our arsenal, as paranormal investigators, is the body. The human body is actually feeling. That is my biggest tool, is me. Being able to sense, point, direct, guide. And then that's usually when somebody gets pictures of something or video, EVPs. I used to love taking photographs, but I can't no more. I don't know if anybody's got that problem, but every time I do, something shows up in the photograph. So a lot of my photographs look like Peeta was saying, that it was smoke in front of my picture. But if you look closely, you can see people, and you know what I mean? It's like they're always right there in front of me trying to get my attention. So I don't use the camera as much. I use more feel, more, my gifts, my intuition. And then of course, SD's method, of course, very good method for you guys asking questions and getting responses. A lot of the things we do like that though, Isaac, that's for the other people. We could almost do what we do without tools or equipment, you know what I mean? But it is nice to be able to show other people other things. And the same with the REM pods. I make them go off. So if I go sit beside a REM pod, it's going to glow until Isaac actually makes it shut off. So I'm one of those people that the REM pod react to me very, it's just weird. So they don't work around me.
But it was the energy that I'm taking away, or they move because of me. One of my final questions, because we're going on a little while here. I know I said an hour, but I'm going to rephrase that from now on every time we do these paranormal roundtables, just because we all have great perspectives and hearing everyone and different things like that. But I guess one of the final questions I want to ask is, we already are, me and Mike, Mike probably have his own perspective, but what is your goal as a paranormal investigator, or at least as someone in the paranormal? What is it you want to discover, or what is it you want to do with the paranormal? I'll start with Peeta.
Okay. For me, my goal is to help the living and the dead. And I get asked a lot, like, oh, how much do you charge? I don't charge anything. Like, the reason I'm doing paranormal and going and helping families who are dealing, with activity of any kind, or, spirits, I just want to be able to contribute to the field. And that's another reason why, we're, starting to do more experimental type investigations, because I'd like to someday, even, write a book or something like that to, like, put out there, I suppose. It's a seesaw in our field, because, like you said in the beginning, Isaac, there's those clout chasers, and they're just in it for the money and the fame, and so everything's fake and bullshit, and it makes me so frustrated and angry. So you know, it's great knowing that there's so many other, you know, authentic investigators out there around the entire world who are, you know, legitimately trying to just contribute and help people. I don't agree with people charging. I think, yeah, I just don't think it's the right thing to do. So yeah.
I just give it a thumbs up. Yeah. And the thing that's funny is that with our skills, with our me and Mike's team's skill of what we do, what we can provide, you think we would be able to charge anything we want, because it's almost a guarantee what we do is going to happen, because we of course had experience and we have testimonial people we've helped out with it before, and you know, stuff like that. But I think it was Mike, you were telling me that it's that if you start charging people for your gift to use it to help people, that you start losing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you start putting negativity into the system, you know, you're trying, it's the personal gain rule.
Oh,
I mean, that you don't, I don't use my gifts for personal gain. So I'm not going to give you lotto ticket numbers, or, you know what I mean? It's not like that. It's not how the system works. So you know what I mean? It's just the way it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Josh, what's your
Yeah. So, you know, we started out, you know, really trying to just document any paranormal experiences that we had, right? Trying to bring light to what is out there. But we've really switched lately into, you know, trying to tell the stories of those who have passed on. Like, you have these spirits that are here, right? That they were once alive. They have a story. They had a life. You know, try to get as much as you can to understand, you know, what life is like or what they want to tell people. There's lots of, you know, stories, just like we're sitting around that, you know, talking about our stories, right? These spirits have stories. Well, and it kind of came to me. We were at one of the Titanic museums. We were in Branson, Missouri at the Titanic Museum. And they have this, when you walk in there, they give you a ticket. And the ticket has a name of an individual. And that is who you get to be while you're on the Titanic. And then at the very end, there's a wall, right? Of every ticketed individual on the Titanic. And you get to figure out if you lived or died. Ooh, it's brutal, right? Absolutely brutal. But you start looking at this wall, right? And there's thousands of names on this wall. And you're like, each one of these people had a story. You know, they had something that happened to them in life. And it's like, why can't we tell their stories to the rest of the people? Because there's stuff to learn from what they've experienced in life. And so that's really what we try to do, you know, as much as possible. It's tough, right? Because when you can speak in small sentences, or, you know, you get an EVP of 1 or 2 words, sometimes it's really tough to get some of that full story out. But we try the best we can to bring as much of that out to people as possible.
Yeah.
it's almost like putting together a puzzle. I think
Exactly.
too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the more you go back to a location, the more you learn about, you know, the different spirits, and you can start kind of piecing it together into what you think, you know, has gone on and stuff.
Well,
Like
exactly. Like, you really have to go back more than once. Like, you have to hit
Mm.
places several times to really get a full understanding of stuff.
like an onion, you got to peel back the layers.
Yeah, exactly.
keeps I know you were saying before that you got out of it and you're getting your way back in, but now that you get back in, what would you say is your goal to be studying the paranormal, investigating altogether?
Yeah. For one, I want to say I've been at ease at this whole time for whatever y'all did earlier. So I wanted to apologize, see if I was like out of it. I was spacing out for a minute here and there throughout the whole podcast. So I do wanted to apologize for that. But I mean, throughout prior time, because of my name, Keeper II, associating with the Paranormal Files, I have been contacted by more of the clout chasing, more of those kind of people. I've had the opportunity to be able to do a full on series, paranormal series on Amazon and Apple, but that was fully scripted out, and I completely denied that. And they asked me why, and I was like, I work with these people. This is what we do. We hands on. We don't follow any scripts. We tell the truth. How I've been told I am keeper of the truth. I speak the truth. I do what I do. Um, so without this whole time, it's like now this next round, it's how I call it, this next chapter of Keeper of the Second for exploring and doing the paranormal is speaking the truth. And that's what I want to do, is speak the truth through my work, through the paranormal, through exploring. So yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, you start, the people out there who are doing it and following the script, or not doing it for the right reasons,
Yeah.
staging their evidence, things like that.
Mhm. I've-
Like your lies catch up to you, and
Mhm.
every single time you're asked, what happens during that investigation, the story changes.
It does. It definitely does.
Yep.
It's
And to me,
it's
it's like you've got to stay yourself. Like, I just
mhm.
am me, and that's just how I,
Oh, yeah.
film. And that's that. There's no putting
On those
phone.
certain videos, mhm. On those certain videos, you could see I'm at unease because of I have to lie. I have to be a different character. I have to be a different me. Where you can see when I'm with Colin and stuff, I'm more relaxed. I'm more okay. This is boom. We got evidence. Keep going. Let's keep rolling it. Let's keep going it. And it's like with these cloud chasers and all, I'm more of like I can't be myself. I can't. I have to follow their script. I have to do all this. I met those people, and it's, I yeah, it's I've seen both worlds.
Mm.
That's perfect. It's a great answer. And I look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
And appreciate it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
we'll see. We'll see what happens. I might go back to Kansas later this year. So they're calling my name out. So I gotta revisit some old friends.
Yeah. Well, I do appreciate everybody coming on with their different perspectives, and different inputs and information. This has been a good Paranormal Roundtable episode 1, because there will be 2 more if you guys look forward to those. But I do appreciate you guys coming on. And real quick, where can everybody find you, Peeta?
It's Ethereal Sisters Paranormal on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, etc., etc., etc. Same everywhere.
Josh?
Yeah. We have a couple different hashtags. Yeah, you can say. So like on Twitter, we are CPR Paranormal. On Facebook, we are Cold Spot Paranormal Research. And then on Instagram, we're Cold Spot _Paranormal _.
All right. And Keeper, where everybody finds you?
I'm mostly on Instagram now. Keeper the Second. That's where mostly I post everything. But I'm starting to slowly get back into video. So mostly you'll be the same thing. Keeper the Second on YouTube.
Awesome. And Mike, where can everybody find you?
Right here.
All right.
No, Shadow Walker Paranormal. On Instagram. Do we have the other ones yet? Snapchat and all that yet?
No, Megan, I would like Megan get started with that. But also, when it comes to paranormal questions with Shadow Walker Paranormal, Hidden the Shadows podcast on Instagram is also a great place to communicate with us as well. Like I said, do appreciate you guys coming on. For everyone listening, you can catch Hidden Shadows podcast, Hidden Shadow podcast, like I said, on Instagram, Hidden the Shaw 6 on Twitter, Hidden in the Podcast 2 on TikTok, or links to all of social media, and always you can listen to us at hiddenshadowspodcast.com. Yeah, thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
All right, and as always,
Appreciate it.
catch your weirdos in the next one.